Today, we're looking at a green ink by Monteverde Monteverde Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. As always, there's timestamps down below in the description, so if you're in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Noodler's nib creeper, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization in my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, it has shading. Look at what's going on in the word green. It means it can occur more. Extra fine is just a tad lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice peppering of shading throughout with 6 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, the same nice shading as the extra fine, with 9 seconds to dry. Now, the scrubby of the extra fine and the medium, I don't know how well it's going to come through after. I'm hoping it comes through well. Does show some good color variation like what we get up here. Just on my monitor at the moment, this looks very dark. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get any. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading going on. It's nice when you can see it. Again, I'm hoping it comes through on camera, the peppering of shading here. Extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, very nice peppering of shading throughout, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, same peppering of shading all over the place. Very nice to look at. 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both, far left to far right. I'm going to be hoping this the whole time. Hope it comes through on camera. It does show nice color variation, and we do get it in the writing. I think my camera is just going to have trouble with this one. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what's interesting is that we see this very light purple on the bottom. We see a very minty green above that, a much darker green, but at the very, very top, that is a very purple line across the top of that dark green, which is very interesting. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And if I had not marked it, I would not have known which of these filters was immediate and which was when I did it wrong and let it dry for 10 minutes. I'm not expecting much resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, there's a lot of blurriness that's occurred, but I can read what's there. That part makes me feel okay to use this in a note-taking situation. Water is lifting, and in fact, you can see a spot where the white of the paper is starting to come through. Water's all it took to get it out of my pen, but you can see the white of the paper just beginning on the white here, on the water here. Now, pen flush does everything that water does a little bit faster. The green that's left behind is a little lighter. You see more of the white of the paper, but I didn't need to use pen flush. And 1/3 bleach solution completely removed it from the paper, leaving a neat blue around the edge. I test for viscosity or flow using a thing called a tilt test. I will link how I do that, the video of it, down below or up in the cards. I also then put it onto a standard distribution so it's more easily seen with all of the inks that I've tested. Now, for the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Monteverde Green has a viscosity of 1.59, making this a very wet ink. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. I find this by using my writing samples that were done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Monteverde's Monteverde Green has an average dry time of 10 seconds, making this a fast-drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Monteverde Green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted a nice purple. I chose Noodler's Purple Wampum. The second writing sample is done on Nimacine, Moji, and Leuchtturm 1917 paper. Here we're looking at the Nimacine notebooks, or Nimacine, or however you want to pronounce it. One of my favorite of all time papers. Just so expensive to get a good pad of this. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread halo sheen. It does have some very nice shading throughout it. The extra fine is a little lighter than the stub with no feather spread halo sheen. A great peppering of shading all over. 6 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread halo sheen. That same great peppering of shading with 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show a slight bit of color variation, but it's much better in the writing. And Moji paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, back on screen, has no feather spread halo sheen. Nice spots of shading, not a ton, but there are plenty of spots of it. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread halo sheen. The same spots of darker spaces in letters, not even whole dark letters, but there are whole dark letters darker, like look at quick, starts dark, gets lighter, gets very dark. So it is there, just not super pronounced because of the tone of this paper. 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, none here. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, although we do see spots of it with the extra fine. Leuchtturm 1917 paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and there was none, and that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Monteverde Green? This is a very nice, slightly darker green. It can shade pretty well. And the funniest thing to me is being called Monteverde Green makes it feel like Monteverde is talking about themselves in the third person. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I would just avoid a very wet pen. It puts down a much darker green and sacrifices all of the shading with it. I put out a new ink review every single day, so that if you're not already subscribed, I'm going to remind you, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.